And I think this is what people don't understand in mission work. You have to go more than just a year. It's a lifetime commitment. It's a commitment of years of investment.
Boaz Papendick, thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure to be here.
Great to see you again. Happy to have you here. You're a missionary in West Africa. I want to talk a lot about exactly what you're doing, but I want to begin by asking about the why. How in the world did you wind up a missionary in West Africa, and where in West Africa?
That's a really good question. So basically, when I was a child, about 10 years old, my parents brought my sister and I into the living room, and they said, would you like to go to Egypt as missionaries? And so I was thinking, well, where is Egypt and why? And 10 years old, you don't really know much about life at all. And to make a long story short, we said yes. We went and we spent 4 wonderful years in Egypt. It was the best years of my entire life. I have very pleasant memories of that. And when we came back from Egypt to the States, I didn't want to leave. We had to come back for family reasons. And but my whole life was focused on getting back and going back and being a missionary.
So you caught the bug as a kid?
I did.
So I mean, as a little kid, did you have mission stories read to you? Did you
Definitely.
hear the tales?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Did that warm you up? Did that prime you? Or at the time, maybe not so much?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, listening to Eric B. Hare and all those wonderful stories definitely primed the pump. I can remember being at Washington camp meeting, and we had missionaries come and talk to us while we were in the camp meeting, the meetings and stuff like that. It was just wonderful.
So your career as a missionary, is this something that you planned for, took steps to accomplish, or did you just sort of fall into it one day while you were on your way to another calling?
Well, basically, when we came back from Egypt, I said, I really want to be a missionary again. And so as I asked various friends who had been missionaries, I said, well, what do I need to do to become a missionary? And they gave me a list of criteria of what I needed to fulfill. And so when I just started to knock those things out, one of them was to become a Bible worker. And so I went to AFCO, and that was a wonderful blessing. After that, I couldn't just take the classes, I needed to apply it. So I went and worked in Midland, Michigan for a year as a Bible worker. It was a wonderful experience. After that, my wife and I, we got our Master's of Public Health at Loma Linda. And so having a master's gives you credibility, gives you a background, knowledge of what to do in the mission field. And then, so just knock things out.
Are you really prepared for this? This is something you went after, and God opened the doors and you went through.
He has.
Well, today you're in Senegal, in West Africa. Why Senegal? How did you end up there?
That's a good question. So basically, one day I went into my advisor. His name is Dr. Gady. And I said, Dr. Gady, I need a job. He's like, yeah, you probably do. And it's just like, well, and so he's like, it just happens to be that there's some guys from AFM here, and they're looking for some people to go work in Mauritania. And I was like, well, I have to pay your salary, and working with AFM is just not going to work because there's a huge debt that I have here with Loma Linda. And so he smiled and he said, well, we'll see if we can work something out. To make a long story short, we went as General Conference employees to work in Mauritania and to do a collab essentially with AFM. First time they'd ever done that. To make an even longer story short, we didn't actually make it to Mauritania. We stayed in Senegal, and that's where we are today.
Okay. Was there anything about West Africa itself that drew you, or you saw it on the map and said, why not?
It was nothing. Like, it was totally like a place. It was like a drop. It was like, this is where you're going, and there was no choice involved.
Look, here's what I know.
Yes.
People have heard me say West Africa. They've heard me say Senegal, and they've done this. Right now, there's someone right now going, how do you spell that? And where is it? So, and someone's Googling Senegal. So tell me where it is. Not that I don't know, because I do. And then we're going to talk about life in Senegal.
Senegal is the furthest west you can go in continental Africa. And so it's just below Mauritania and Morocco, right on the belt with the Sahara Desert and then the green south.
And what's south of it? Is it Guinea-Bissau, Guinea?
Exactly. Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry. And then to the east is Mali.
Oh, yeah.
And then Gambia is right in the middle.
Have you been to Timbuktu?
I haven't yet.
You're not far away.
Not too far away.
Because that's in Mali, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Hopefully one day I'll make it there.
So does the Sahara Desert interrupt Senegal at all?
A little bit in the north, yeah.
Yeah, okay. But
it definitely affects us.
Does it? Is the rest of the country pretty arid?
The north is arid. The south has a little bit more water. Okay. But we're cutting trees left and right, center, so soon we'll be all desert.
That's the way it goes, I think.
That's the way it goes.
Hot? Got to be hot.
Yes, very hot.
How hot?
Well, I came just the other day, and you can just be sitting right now. If I was in Senegal right now, I would be just sitting there, and I'd have sweat just pouring down my face without any movement at all.
That's pretty warm.
Very warm.
Do you live with air conditioning?
We don't have AC.
Oh, no air conditioning.
Not in the car, not in the house. So
Not anywhere. A lot of sweating going on.
if we're too hot, we go to the store.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So you're there as a missionary. Your intent, your hope, your purpose is to do what?
To turn basically West Africa upside down. That's the general goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The long-term goal is to create Madison 2.0 in West Africa.
All right. And is there any reality involved in your hope? Or is this just a dream that you know you'll never achieve and you just want to work towards it?
Well, it is based in reality in the fact that God has been working miracles.
Okay.
We wanted to start a light program for the last number of years. Never got off the ground.
Explain what a light program is.
Very good. A light program is a training program from Wildwood. So there was a group of people at Wildwood who said, you know what? We have so many people wanting to come to Wildwood to get our education, and they're unable to come.
Yep.
Because of visas and expenses and whatever. They said, why don't we just take the program that we give at Wildwood, put it into a condensed form, about a 1-month program, and then give it to the world. And then they have it, and it's called the Light Program,
Fantastic.
essentially. And it's been a wonderful thing. We've wanted to start one in Senegal for years.
Yeah.
And God has just recently helped us to
So
actually
now
get it off
that's
the ground.
underway.
It is.
And what you're saying, when you say you want to establish Madison 2.0, explain that for someone who might have no frame of reference for what Madison was.
Madison College was, in my estimation, one of the best colleges that we've had in the Adventist Church. Basically, you could come with absolutely no money in your pockets, and you could leave with no money in your pockets, but your mind was full of information. What we have in Senegal right now is we have people who have no money. And so if they could come to us with no money, get an education, work their way through the program, get practical skills in addition to the theoretical skills that they're going to learn, they can go and they can turn the world upside down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the impact that Madison made, particularly in the American South and Southeast, massive.
Yeah,
Still
huge,
felt today.
huge.
It reverberates even
Tremendous.
today. Yeah. Okay, so you want to go there. You're there sharing Christ and teaching others how to share Jesus. How does that work in Senegal? I mean, if you're on the other side of the continent in Somalia, it wouldn't be long before you figured out you are not welcome. Are missionaries welcome in Senegal?
Senegal is an island of peace and safety at the moment. The countries around Senegal have major problems, but Senegal is an island of peace and safety, and so that's why we're so blessed to be there. So we really need to invest in Senegal so that we can then reach into Timbuktu, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, these other countries.
What's the population of the country?
Good question. It depends on who you talk to. Some say 15 million, other people say 18 million.
Okay.
So somewhere in there.
Somewhere around there. Christians make up how much of that?
Christians are probably, I don't know, maybe 10% of that, 20%, give or take.
So not insignificant.
Yeah. We have the Adventist populations, maybe 300, 350, 400.
Growing?
Not much.
What would it take for there to be growth that you would be happy with?
It would take a reformation and revival. I mean, the problem is that we've been tied up in knots for the last few years, just blaming each other for different things. The devil is just cause all kinds of problems, but we see change, and that's the cool thing. And you know, as we train people, as we get a new perspective on mission and what our role is in mission, instead of just going to church and warming a pew and then going home and that's it. Instead of becoming a seventh-day Christian Adventist, you become a 7-day. So you're actually an Adventist through the whole week, and just helping people to understand that it's not people with the white skin who come over as missionaries, but no, it's everybody's a missionary. I mean, that is the key, and it's coming, and we're seeing change, and it's really awesome.
So how did we get away from that? Because I think you and I would both agree that, at least here in the United States, that idea that everybody is a missionary, that's a minority view. How'd we get to that, given that the church is and always has been, or at least began as, absolutely a missionary movement? How is it that Christians fall away from that, get away from every member as a missionary, get to the, well, at least I warm a pew? How does that happen?
Well, I think we just get comfortable. we get a nice job, we get comfortable just going to church and having somebody preach to us every Sabbath. We have seminars on Sabbath afternoon about how to go out and do stuff, but we don't really ever get out and do it. It's just, we get rich. I know in Senegal we have a problem where a lot of the members are gaining wealth, they're gaining good jobs, and they're doing good. And so you have the Laodicea, basically where I'm rich, increased with wealth, and really don't need anything. And well, no, you need everything. And I think we were just talking, war, I think is something that really helps to shake things up. And so somehow we've got to, I don't know, how can we get people active? I mean, that's where the Light program comes in, to really shake people up, do health expos, go door to door, encouraging people, testimonies of, how, like when you've gone out, you come back and you tell people, this is what we were able to do. And this is how God made an impact.
In Senegal yourself, so what's life like for you?
Well, when we first went to Senegal, we lived on a mission compound. We worked for the church, and we were at a clinic in the south of the country. So, just a typical kind of compound missionary life. We were kind of in a fishbowl, essentially. Since then, we've changed our situation, and now we're living in the city, and so it's just very much city life.
Are you in Dakar?
We are in Dakar.
Okay, and that's a big city.
It is a very big city.
Yeah, I want to talk more about mission and less about Senegal, but I do want to talk about Senegal a little bit. I don't think anyone in the world knows anything about Dakar except for maybe the people who live there. All we know is that there's a Paris to Dakar rally for some odd reason. What's life like? What's Senegal all about? Take me there and paint a picture of that country.
So Dakar is one of the most expensive cities in West Africa.
Why?
Because the United Nations have moved there.
Oh.
So basically, the UN used to be in Côte d'Ivoire, or Ivory Coast.
Yep.
And they had civil war there. And so all of the French-speaking UN people have all moved to Dakar. And they've just jacked up the prices on everything. So it's very expensive. It's very cosmopolitan. You have people from all over the world in Dakar. It's got a very strong French influence, very good baguette there, wonderful Lebanese food. You have Indians, you have Chinese, you have people from all over the world coming. And so very cosmopolitan, you have everything from incredibly rich skyscrapers, tall skyscrapers with just incredible wealth, to just people living in hovels without anything.
So someone seeing Dakar would look at that and go, yeah, that's recognizable as a modern city.
It is, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Senegal produces what? What's their thing?
Peanuts.
Peanuts?
Yeah. We laugh about that because we actually make jokes about that in Senegal, because historically that's what Senegal has been known for, is the peanuts and the peanut oil. Recently, they've discovered oil, and that should come on tap within the next few years, and that will dramatically change Senegal.
That'll change.
They have some gold mines, but that doesn't make a significant impact. So right now, honestly, it's peanuts and then brains. Senegalese are very involved in the United Nations. They have even a cap now. They won't let any more in because they're full of people from Senegal. People like Senegalese people are all over in different levels of government throughout the world. And the French-speaking world, they're very, very involved and very, very smart people.
So you moved to Dakar, and you said when you first went to Senegal, you were working for the church, but you shifted. Who are you working for now?
Well, let's see. We worked for the church for 4 years, and in Senegal, and then in 2017 we decided to change focus, and we started our own ministry, and our ministry is connected with Outpost Centers International, and we've been so blessed to work with them. So our ministry is called Le Chemin in French, which is the way in English, or the path. And we have a small ministry directly connected with OCI, and we've been very blessed with that.
Yeah, connected with, but I described you right at the beginning of the program as a missionary with a difference. And this is a significant difference. And I don't know if this is for everyone, or if it should be for everyone, or what. But you're a self-supporting missionary. So there's no paycheck coming to you from a sponsoring organization.
No. So for the first basically 7 years of our missions experience, we were paid by the church.
Yeah.
We were interdivision employees.
Sure.
Wonderful experience. in 2017, we chose to make a change and to leave denominational employment and then to become self-supporting missionaries. By God's grace, we were able to pay off our loans to Loma Linda in 6 years. So we had pretty significant loans. We had about something like 140,000 or something like that. But in 6 years, we were able to pay it all off.
Wow.
And so since 2017, we've been living on faith. And God has blessed us. For the first 4 years we were in Senegal, we actually we worked. So we were tent makers. We did substitute teaching. We did tutoring in order to pay for our expenses. And then we realized we didn't come to Senegal to babysit rich people's kids. We came to Senegal to make an impact. And so then we decided to leave that work and to go more into full-time ministry. And so I think it was about 21, we left working as substitute teachers and tutors, and now we've gone more into full-time ministry.
I want to come back to a word you used a minute ago, and that was we. So there's a family involved here. There's dad and mom, and who's the and?
So we have 4 children.
4 kids. And right now their ages range from what to what?
Our oldest is 17.
Yeah.
And then we have a 13-year-old, we have a 10-year-old, and a 4-year-old.
So at least 2 of your kids basically know nothing but life in Senegal. And if I'm doing the math correctly, you took a 5-year-old to Senegal long ago.
2-year-old, actually.
2-year-old to Senegal. And the 2-year-old has grown up there.
He does.
Now let's talk about that. That's a whale of a thing. I'm not saying it's wrong. Of course it's not wrong. It's what God led you to do. But you took a 2-year-old and you said this child is going to grow up in West Africa. So was that a difficult decision to make? Because it's not just you and mom now, not 2 adults who are committing to something they understand, but you're committing other lives to growing up in, well, it wouldn't be a foreign culture for them because they'd grow up in it, but not your culture. Talk to me about the process that you've got to go through to consider that, make those kinds of decisions, because as we're speaking, there are people watching us right now who are saying, man, mission work, I wonder if that's for me, or I've sensed that God is calling us to mission work. But what about the kids? So how did you walk through that whole thing of figuring out what to do about the kids, whether or not to take them, how wise it was to take them to some far-flung corner of the world? Walk me through that.
Well, we as parents had made the executive decision that we're going as missionaries, and I don't know if we even ever thought about it, to be honest. I mean, it was just like, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And for our oldest, at least, I mean, we just grew up there. I mean, I don't know that I ever made any thought about it, to be honest. It's just, this is what we're doing. For me, I always wanted to be a missionary, and I just wanted my kids to experience that. And in fact, living overseas is honestly so much better even than the States. Why? Because when we first were in Senegal, we lived in a village, and he got to play with the friends in the village. He got to learn the language. He got to experience just being in the dirt and getting dirty. And it was wonderful. And just away from just the technology and everything in the States. And our other children, they've just grown. They've just grown up, and I mean, it's not always been easy.
Sure,
not easy at all. But it's been a blessing.
You've got people wondering right now. Well, 17, somewhere right about now, someone's thinking about college. So what happens then? Does your 17-year-old return to the United States?
Yeah,
or does your 17-year-old, being as has been raised in Senegal, does he go to school in Senegal? How do you work through that?
Well, he's going to come back to the States next year, in fact. So he'll graduate next year, and then he'll be back in the States. And we're just, by faith, we'll pray that God will show us what to do. Yeah. His first year, he wants to live with his grandparents, go to community college, and then he's thinking about maybe going to Southern after that, and we'll see.
Yeah.
God knows, he'll show us, and we'll open those doors as it comes.
So let me ask, I don't want to dwell too much on your kids because, they're not here to speak for themselves. And you don't want to, sometimes less is better than more. But this third culture thing, where a child is, whatever they are, whatever race they are, raised in another culture altogether, and then comes home to their own culture and feels like an outsider.
Yeah.
That's essentially what that third
true.
culture thing is, right? So how do you navigate that?
It's hard. In all honesty, it's very hard. My son actually spent 2 years at Weimar, And he really liked Weimar because there's a lot of other third culture kids there as well. But it's very difficult because you don't understand people that are your own age group because you just think differently. Everything is wired differently in your mind. And the things that you're interested in, the things that you want to do are just so different. And it's hard. My children are attending now an evangelical school in Dakar called Dakar Academy. And it's full of third culture kids. And so it's such a blessing because they can be with people who understand what they're going through. And that has been a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Do you get a sense that your kids themselves lean into mission work, or are they looking at more I'm going to call more conventional futures? What's the sense that you get?
I think yes. I think my children will want to do mission work in some shape or form or another. My son just recently told me that he wants to make sure that he marries another third culture kid, because he's realizing that when he was at Weimar, he had a girlfriend, but she just didn't understand him at all. She just understand the way he was thinking, the way he was living his own life. And so I think that he's starting to think outside the box, which is good.
Interesting. You have to speak French? Mm-hmm. How's your French?
Je peux parler au moins un peu.
You got me convinced. Are there other languages you need to speak, local languages?
Yes, definitely.
How many languages are there?
Well, in the village that we lived in for 4 years in the south of the country, we had 13 different languages represented there.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
How many of them did you need to be fluent in?
Each person asked me to learn their language, and it was just too much. So we focused on French.
Okay.
And
that's the universal language.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that you're up in the big city, French, or is there another local
we
language?
We should learn Wolof. Wolof is the main trade language, yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So you've been a missionary there a dozen years. To begin with, you were employed as a missionary, but you made a change and opted to go to another place, take on a slightly different field of labor and maybe slightly different focus. And there was a big change. You decided that you'd become self-supporting. So rather than simply receiving a guaranteed secure paycheck from a sponsoring organization, now you were responsible for sourcing your own income. That's not entirely unique. There are a lot of missionaries who do that. So they are supported and their pay comes that way. But at the beginning, I said you're a missionary with a difference, and here's the difference. You don't ask for money. You don't fundraise. You don't fundraise. So you mentioned before you live by faith, and that is you simply turn in the direction of heaven and say to God, God, you know our needs. We're trusting you to provide. Now, people who watch It Is Written will know that not very long ago, we released a new program focusing on the story of George Mueller, the very famous Prussian missionary who left what's now Germany and ended up in the west of England. And he and his wife decided they wouldn't ever ask any human being for money. And while operating the ministry that way, they grew this massive orphanage and educated thousands of young people and housed them and gave them vocational training. So that's Mueller. Why in the world did you decide to take an approach to ministry where you would not ask for money? Why'd you do that?
I was heavily inspired by George Mueller, to be honest.
Is that so?
Yeah, definitely. I just loved the work that he did. I loved how God dramatically changed his life from being just a crazy young person to being just a powerful source of good. And after reading his story, hearing his story, I was just so impacted by it. I said, that's what I want to do.
Why did you want to do that?
I don't like asking for money. It's difficult because living in Senegal, Senegal is a country full of beggars. It's part of the culture. There's a part of the Islamic type of Islam that we have in Senegal. Begging is a very active part of the culture, and so I just didn't like it because people are always asking me for money, and it's just so much better to talk with God about our needs. And he's come through every single time. It's just been amazing. One thing that impacted my decision, though, is back when I was in college. I was at Weimar College, and all of my friends had amazing stories. They had stories of how God would come through and pay their school bills for them. And I had no story. My mother at the time worked for Loma Linda. I got 75% of my tuition paid for. I was living the high life. I had no stories. I made money on the holidays. I would work on the holidays and I put it in the bank. At that time, I had an astounding figure of $1,000 in the bank, and I had no stories. And so one day, what I decided to do is just take all of that money and use it up. I did. I emptied my bank account. I went and did a bunch of things, good things, necessary things, and I have never wanted it since. God has always given me exactly what I need when I need it, never more, never less. And God is I now have stories. I can share, how God has blessed me immensely.
Okay, so tell me one of those stories.
We needed a new car just recently. And family member, this is horrible, but a family member passed away. And now we were able to have a car that we desperately need. And so
a vehicle's expensive in Senegal.
Very expensive.
Oh,
very, very expensive.
And you can't do a whole lot of mission work if you don't have transport.
Exactly. But God provided what we needed when we needed it.
At the right time.
At the right time.
Yeah. When people learn that that's your approach to mission work, not ever asking for money without a sponsoring organization, what's their reaction? Do they think you're crazy?
Yeah, many people do. And they ask when we're going to come back to the States.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
What I mean, they're expecting you to fail or run out of money?
Yeah. And people have said that we're going to fail too.
No.
Mm-hmm.
People will tell you that.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what do you think of God if you think that God can't provide for somebody?
Well, and that's the question. But I mean, I can testify that God provides.
Yeah.
He's always there.
So people will tell you, we're expecting you to fail, you're going to come home.
Yeah.
What do you think? Why would somebody say that?
I think there's just I don't think that people have the missionary ideal anymore. I think it's just people. One thing that, if you don't mind, one thing that really impacted me was a story of the Haystack Five. You know the Haystack Five? The Haystack Five in Massachusetts. There were some young men who were going out to do a prayer meeting. A rainstorm came down. They went underneath a haystack. It's one of those mushroom-shaped haystacks back in the day. And underneath that haystack, they prayed and they dedicated themselves to ministry. This was back in the 1800s. And those five went and impacted the world. They turned the world upside down. There was a lady that came up to one of those people, those young men, and she said, "Why are you sending all these people overseas to be missionaries? And don't you need to be helping people in the States?" And he's like, "Yes, but as we go overseas, we're impacting people back in the States." And I feel like that's where it's at. It's just like, as we go overseas, we impact people back in the States. As I make a Facebook post, I'll go to churches back in the States and people say, "I will read every single post that you make. I'll never comment." And so people are being impacted by what we're doing, whether we're saying, just by the little bit that we're doing. And it's incredible.
So you said a minute ago, you feel like we've lost that missionary spirit.
I do.
Yeah. I wonder if, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so feel free to comment on this. I wonder if we, it's a very general we, I wonder if the church, society, Christian believers are losing the sense of God being the God of the miraculous. You needed a vehicle now. Money came through at just the right time. Mm-hmm. My thinking is you've had that experience several times. Mm-hmm. Am I right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. That's too much for some people, though. For some people to say, well, yeah, rely on God. That's not how we think today. Where'd that thinking come from? In the wilderness, they relied on God. There was manna 6 days a week. Water came out of a rock. If they weren't living by faith, they weren't getting out of the desert alive. Mm-hmm. Did you ever think, man, I might be receiving the wrong signals here? Or were you ever afraid that faith had turned into presumption?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah?
There's no question about it.
You wrestled with that?
Oh, yeah, even now. Is it easy? No, it's not. And I just recently, I raised money for somebody. So I have asked for money for a few things.
Like for other people?
But it wasn't for me. It was for somebody else.
Yeah, okay.
And God came through. But yeah, it's hard because I have friends who raise money all the time and they look at me weird and like, why aren't you raising money? Like, you're being lazy. We need money and you're not raising money. But like God always comes. He comes late, but it's always his timing,
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah.
You're very happy. You're very settled doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I am. I am. That doesn't mean that there aren't moments where I question things.
Even if you're the great George Mueller, doesn't mean there are no moments where you're not white knuckling and thinking, we have days left before we are broke again. So having those questions, that's not anything out of the ordinary, is it?
No, definitely not. It's very much a part of who we are. But like I said earlier, we wanted to start this light program back in 2017, and we didn't start it until just now, 2024. I mean, it's taken us how many years? I have gone with OCI. I work with OCI right now as a regional vice president, and I'll have to go to congresses, and I'll have to share what we're doing in Senegal, and I'll be up there with my head down. I have nothing to share because I've gone through just so many difficulties for the last few years. I have nothing to share, and I'm embarrassed. I don't know what to say, and yet now I have things to share. The thing is that, when you look at the people in the Bible, you look at Joseph. Joseph was a missionary, but did he choose to be a missionary? No, he was forced to be a missionary.
Yeah.
You look at Paul. Paul went through incredible, at the time in the desert, 3 years in the desert before he came back and did missions. Jesus, he spent the 40 days in the wilderness, and I really truly believe that the last few years for us have been that too. Very difficult times for our family, for us mentally and physically, and yet God has been there. And now we're starting to see that fruit paying off. Those seeds that have been planted before are now coming through.
Are you connecting that with your mode of support, or are you just talking about that's how mission work goes sometimes?
The mode of support, mission work, we lived in Senegal for 4 years. When we left Senegal in 2013, I honestly felt that when we left after being there for 4 years is when I started to understand who I was and what I was doing. In other words, it took me 4 years to just begin to understand the culture. When I first went to Senegal, it's just a sea of black. You see all the faces and just everybody's the same. It took me 4 years to understand it. This is a Jola, this is a Mankain, this is a Manjak, this is a Bainuk, this is a Wolof, this is a Serer. Each ethnic group has their own different way of seeing things and doing things. It took me time to understand that. And I think this is what people don't understand in mission work. You have to go more than just a year. It's a lifetime commitment. It's a commitment of years of investment. So we were there for 4 years. We left for 3 years. We came back. But because we had invested those first 4 years, now our second term in Senegal, we were able to build off of what we knew back then. And now we're much further along.
Back in the day, missionaries to China and so forth, some of the famous missionaries, they were gone for decades.
It's true.
It happens today, but a whole lot less. A whole lot less. I'm wondering about the amount of people who are willing to commit to a life of mission service. Do you think they are there? Do you think these people still exist?
Definitely.
Are we finding them?
Definitely.
Are we equipping them?
That's a good question. I think that there are people who are working to equip the missionaries of today.
Yep.
My friends in Move, for instance, down in Belize, I went to school with them at Southern, Jeff and Fauna Sutton. Their school is amazing, and they're equipping future missionaries. We're hoping to partner with them. In Senegal, we're hoping to be a soft landing. So we want people to come from South America, Central America, United States, all over the world. We want them to come to us to give them language skills and cultural acquisition so they can then go into the mission field and work. I think that there are young people out there who do want to do missions.
Yeah. What can we do to make, looking at missions generally, very generally, what can we do to make missions, like I have any impact, what can be done to make mission work more effective than it is now? That's not to say it's ineffective, and some mission work is hugely effective. But without commenting on that, what would you like to see done to raise the impact and the effectiveness of mission work?
I mean, just in my context, we need more people willing to dedicate their lives to missions. We need people who are willing to go the extra mile. We need people who are willing to be martyrs, for God. It's a hard thing to say, but I believe firmly with all my heart that when we look at the Fox's Book of Martyrs, when we look at some of these other missionaries, you were talking about the missionaries in China. They went knowing that they were going to die. They went knowing that they might be soup the next day, those that went to the South Sea Islands. And I think we've lost that. And I think that this is somehow we have to resurrect that knowledge. Somehow we need to be creating videos or books or something so that people can truly see that missions is alive today and that it's not necessarily in Senegal. The thing is like missions has come to America. I just went and ate at a Lebanese restaurant yesterday. There are so many Afghans here who've come from Afghanistan to the United States. Are we reaching out to the people from Afghanistan? When I come on the airline from Senegal, I fly with a plane full of other Senegalese. When I flew just the day before yesterday, I talked with so many people from Senegal. I had wonderful conversations with Senegalese American people. Who is reaching these people? They're our next door neighbors here in the States. What are we doing? Are we reaching out to these people? That's the question that we have to ask ourselves. And the thing is that we can, It's not like we have to go with a Bible study. It's no, be a friend, give a smile, give an encouraging word, help somebody out.
There are some great stories. You may even know the individual. Young lady in the Midwest moved into an apartment building because that apartment building was full of refugees. That's why I'm living there, because I want to reach some refugees. Man, that's intentional living, isn't it?
That is.
And doesn't that give your life a purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there a greater purpose now than just going to work 9 to 5 and doing whatever it is, you going to the gym and walking your dog? As good as that is, this individual may be doing all that, but at the same time is choosing to live where refugees are, people with different cultural backgrounds, different religious orientation, because she believes that God wants her to reach people there somehow, going to where those people are. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a story of faith.
That is.
Don't we need more people like that?
We do.
I got another story for you. Older lady I know, they were in retirement. They were well into retirement, and they were going to move. And she said to her husband, let's not move there, because there's a whole lot of church members there already. Let's move to a place where there are no church members.
Amen.
So they found a neighborhood, looked up and down. Nope, no church members around here. She said, we're moving here so we can win someone to Jesus. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't long. She was studying the Bible with a neighbor across the street. And it wasn't long after that. And that woman was baptized.
That's where it's at.
That's mission work, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah. You may not be on the other side of the world.
No.
Okay. In a second, I want to ask you a question. And that is, if someone's thinking that God is calling to mission work, how do they work? I want you to take a second and think about that. Because there's all kinds of people who think, oh boy, it'd be nice to live in the mission field, I'm sure, and live among the swaying coconut palms and walk along the golden beach without understanding what mission work is really about.
True.
Maybe you haven't really thought through some of the ramifications of that. Someone who senses a call to missionary work, people do get it wrong. Sometimes it's no different than the kid who goes to school thinking that he or she ought to be in medicine, and after 6 months in pre-med, they realize, not for me. Mm-hmm. How does someone figure out whether missionary work is for them?
Well, I think there's several things that somebody can do. One would be to say, go to the SALT course. Go to AFCO, go to a RISE. We have many different training programs where people can go and they can learn what does it take to be a missionary. I went to AFCO. It was a wonderful experience. Shook me up, changed my life. We're using the LIGHT program right now. We mentioned that earlier. The LIGHT program is similar to those programs. It's more focused for the world population. And it basically helps you to understand what it means to be an Adventist, what it means to be a Christian, and then how to take our knowledge of health, our knowledge of spirituality, and then share it with our fellow man. So that's one thing that people can do. Another thing people can do are go out as a student missionary. or they can go as a short-term missions, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to someplace. And that really, like for me, I was really blessed because when I was at Weimar, and after living in Egypt for 4 years, I went to Weimar. And then at Weimar, every single year, I was on a mission trip, every single year. And those mission trips indelibly changed my life. I didn't want to be a student missionary. In fact, I was at Southern Adventist University, refused to be a student missionary because I wanted to be a full-time missionary. So why should I waste my time as a student missionary? God came dramatically and showed me, Boaz, you're going to be a student missionary. I went for half a year. God opened up all the doors for me to go. And that actually is one thing that really impacts me today, is because how he led me to be a student missionary. Being a student missionary completely changed my life. I am who I am today because of that. In fact, that was my first introduction to OCI, Outpost Centers International. I worked at an orphanage in India for 5 months. And the things that I learned at that OCI orphanage would just completely changed who I am, my thinking. Everything, the way I think, everything, was heavily impacted by those 5 months there.
Seems to me, you might say otherwise, but it seems to me to be smart for someone thinking about mission work to talk to some missionaries.
I think that would be wonderful.
Because there's got to be a romanticized notion about mission work.
And I think
you've got to cut through that somehow. Like I talked to a kid once and she said she wanted to be a vet. I said, well, here's a question for you. Do you really want to be a vet, or are you just a kid who likes animals? Two different things.
Very much so.
Two very different things. And if you get that confused, you could end up chasing your tail for a while.
I think that what we need to do is resurrect the culture of inviting missionaries to our churches.
Yes, I like that.
Because I think that back in the day, missionaries would come, we'd be dressed in like foreign clothes and we'd look kind of funny and we'd talk funny and stuff like that. But today it just doesn't seem like that happens. You could walk into a church and no one really cares. And I think that we need to resurrect bringing in missionaries, having them share, wear their funny clothes, get to know them.
Is there a need for missionaries?
Oh, man, huge need.
Really?
Huge.
Yeah.
You just look at Senegal, for instance. We have 15 to 18 million people, 300 Adventists. Do we need missionaries? Absolutely. When you look at Mali has something like 20 or something more million people. We have maybe 200 Adventists of that. Do we need missionaries? Definitely. So when you look at these different countries that have very few Adventists, do we need missionaries? Definitely. Do we need people from the West? Sure. Do we need local missionaries? Absolutely. Everyone needs to be a missionary.
Talk to me about OCI. What is OCI? Outpost Centers International. What's that?
Outpost Centers International is a child of Madison College. Basically, Madison College trained people to be missionaries. They went out and they started restaurants, they started food factories, they started schools, and then they would come together and they would share, and that's where we have ASI. And ASI is a wonderful institution, but OCI basically started as an umbrella organization for all of these different little ministries to have kind of a network. And so OCI is a network of these ministries. So it grew here in the South. Since over the years, OCI has expanded from being simply something here in the South to being a worldwide organization.
Okay,
now,
you're like a field director for West Africa.
I am a field director for West Africa. I just recently became the field director. It's been such a blessing to visit other countries. In the past, it used to be white people who would go and start ministries. And now, instead of doing that, what we're doing is we're encouraging our local brothers and sisters to develop ministries. And they are. I have a friend in Cameroon. Her name is Emily, and she has a place called Nutrivi. And she has a wonderful ministry. I have my friend, Brother Manoa. He has a 9-month training class in Jengre, up in northern Nigeria. In fact, he has constant problems with Boko Haram and what have you. Incredible ministry that he's doing up there. God is creating miracles for him. And it's just such a blessing for me to work with my West African brothers and sisters, to support them, to pray with them, to talk with them, and to see how God is blessing them.
Yeah. Tell me a story. Give me a miracle story, conversion story, missionary story. Tell me a mission story from West Africa. One that you might tell. We need the abridged version. In church on a Sabbath morning as the kids sit around, craning their necks, looking up at you, listening to the missionary speak. What's a story you would tell? Something that takes us to West Africa, helps us to understand something about what God is doing.
Well, just a few years ago, my wife was given a call in the middle of the night. to go to help with the birth. We were living in the south of Senegal at the time, and we were working at a clinic. And she was called to go to help with this birth. And so she went over to help her friend John Sambo. And as she walked in, she found that the baby wasn't coming. It was a breach or something like that, and the baby wasn't coming. They spent hours with this lady trying to help her. Nothing was happening. And so they were about ready to evacuate the lady to Ziguinchor, the local regional capital. And John Sambo, the nurse, he went to go and start making preparations. And the lady was adamant. She did not want to leave. She wanted to stay. And my wife was praying. John was praying. They didn't know what to do. The lady stood up. As she stood up and walked around a little bit, the baby came. And as she happened to just squat before the baby came and it hit the ground. As it hit the ground, it turned. The umbilical cord had been around the neck, and it didn't die because it wasn't choked, because it was able to hit the water and it was able to turn just in an amazing way. And it was just so amazing how God worked miracles. During the time that we were there, I mean, it was so cool to see how God brought life to so many people. There weren't any mothers that lost their babies during the time of our friend John Sampo being there, and just seeing how God worked miracles in the birthing room, in the clinic. It just changes your life.
With the Masters of Public Health, and your wife has the same qualification?
She does.
What does that enable you to do in the mission field in West Africa?
Right now, it's helping me with. I did my master's in global health. And global health is basically you're developing programs, and you're looking kind of like at a big picture, sustainability. And so it's helping me to lead the Light program. It's helping me to work with Farm Stew. It's helping me to work with various partners to really think about how we can be sustainable. How can we look broad, big picture? How can we impact the people in the best possible way?
So as you look forward, what do you see on the horizon? Now, if you are a pastor of a local church in the United States, you've got 111 people coming out each week, and you've got this plan and that plan and the other plan, and it might be predictable and it might not be predictable. My thinking is that you're in West Africa. There are a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that are way outside your control. What do you see in the future for your ministry in Senegal?
All right, right now, we're renting land to do our Light program, and it's such a blessing. We've been so blessed that we have where we are right now. But it's small, and we're praying that we can get land. So
how much land do you need?
Maybe 20 acres or so.
Okay.
So just so we can have staff housing, student housing, and then we want to have vocational arts classes.
Such as?
Welding, plumbing, building, sewing, anything we can.
That's smart. You know, I don't want to derail you here, but I think we miss something in the United States. We train our kids to be doctors. Mm-hmm. That's good. Mm-hmm. And give them business degrees. Definitely. That's good. Mm-hmm. But we don't teach them to be electricians and HVAC technicians. And we have a little building, but mechanics, not so much. I know it happens some. Focusing on vocational arts, that's just smart. Particularly as even here in the West, you can make a ton of money doing that as well.
Totally.
So that's a help.
Yeah, well, and the problem is that I have a lot of friends, Senegalese friends, who go to the universities there in Dakar. Dakar is a major university hub. We have people from all over the French-speaking world who come to Senegal to get an education. The problem is we have many Senegalese young people who go and they get a doctorate in English or Spanish or some crazy thing, and then they have no job. And no job perspective at all, nothing. And so the thing is that I've been forced to see is just like, we have to change that. We have to do something. And so then that's where the vocational arts comes in, because it's just like, we need people who can do farming in a practical way. We need churches built all over the place, and we need Adventists who can help us build these churches. We need to be able to send Bible workers out who are not paid by the church, but can go and work in a self-supporting way, be able to provide really good money for their family, but then also witness for God.
What's it going to take to get this done? I mean, missionaries are supposed to dream big, but at the same time, they hang on to the throne of God and shake it and say, come on now, this is a big dream I've got. We need you to come through for me. So this is attainable? Is it realistic? Or is this just one of these great big dreams you've plopped before God and said, if you do it, we'll do it?
It's attainable, totally. We only need, just $120,000 to buy the land and another, whatever. It'll come. I believe it'll come.
So land's about $6,000 an acre, at least where you're looking.
That's expensive. Senegal is one of the more expensive countries in Africa. In fact, when you talk about money with people, they look at you funny because they think Africa is cheap. They think Africa is free. No, it's expensive.
Yeah, except someone's listening and saying, $6,000 an acre. Man, you can't buy an acre anywhere around here for close to that. So that might sound like a bargain to someone right now.
Yeah, I mean, so will it happen? I do believe it will happen. Will it happen when I want it to happen? Maybe not. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, does it?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all because God knows we're where we are now as we need to be there, and then God will open the doors as we need to go. Yeah. Just like I mentioned with student missions, for instance, and how that's made an impact on my life. God taught me one day. He said, "Boaz, I want you to be a student missionary." I said, "I don't have a passport. I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't have that." I said, "I'm going to walk forward till I hit my nose on the wall." I never found the wall. The wall never came. It was only open doors. And I believe the same thing will happen with this. Will we have it on our timing? No. Will it be in God's timing? Absolutely. Do I know how that's going to happen? Absolutely not. But it'll be great. It'll be a great ride for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So how often do you get back to the United States?
Not a lot, to be honest.
No?
No.
Do you miss the United States? You've been gone a long time. Do you miss it? Well, let me ask it another way. What do you miss about the U.S.?
I do miss the U.S. and the fact I miss my family.
Sure.
I miss not being there with family, with parents and in-laws getting older. It's hard. My father just passed away recently, and it's very hard not to be here for him. And that was very difficult for me. But I mean, the food and everything else, like we have a lot of American stores now in Dakar, so we have access to American products.
You know, I was going to ask you what Senegalese eat.
Very impacted by the French culture and Lebanese culture as well, and American culture as well, because many Senegalese have gone to the States, now come back to Senegal. Do I miss the States? Yes. Do I visit the States often? No. And I need to change that, I think, because people need to hear what we're doing.
That's right.
Will I ask for money? No, but I need to tell people what's going on.
That's right.
So,
yeah. Do you ever think, again, I'm repeating something from a few moments ago, your ministry is built on faith in God, asking God to supply your needs, telling people what your needs are, letting people know, but you don't ask for funding. Do you see it continuing that way, or do you ever think, you know what, maybe we'll go back to the conventional route one day?
I would like to continue on the same way. Is it easy? No. Will it always stay the same? I don't know. But I really do want to stay on the same course.
Yeah.
I've just seen God work so many miracles. I mean, just small miracles. I mean, like hard to actually say this is how it's worked. But he's just come through every time.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be a miracle because you've got to eat and have a place to stay and raise your children, and you need a vehicle and gas in the vehicle and so forth. So if it's all coming from God, that's miracle after miracle after miracle.
It is.
So looking forward, if you had one shot to speak to a group of people and you were going to encourage them to consider mission service, what would you say? What would your message be?
I guess the message that I'd like to share with people is this. You're either a missionary or you're a mission field. And how are you going to make that difference? Is this like, are you going to be reaching out to your neighbor, your family members, or are you going to be a mission field? What are you going to be? For the last few years in Senegal, we've had a lot of problems. Just to be honest, we've been depressed, both my wife and I. And I think that we've been the mission field. In all honesty, even though we've been missionaries overseas, we've been the mission field. We've been needing to have that Reformation revival. But yet God has come through and has helped us. And now as we are slowly starting to work with people, as we're reaching out to other people, as we're helping other people, our own spiritual, mental outlook on life has changed. Too often we're just looking at our belly button. We're arguing about things that are close to us, but that don't really mean anything in the bigger picture. We need to be focusing on other people and bringing them to Christ. And when I was younger in high school, I was really focused on the Masons and Illuminati and all these types of things. And God, you know how God sometimes he taps us on the shoulder, and I just felt like I was just impressed that, God spoke to me. I know it sounds weird, but I do believe that he did. And I believe that he told me, Boaz, people don't come to me through these things. people come to me through preaching about me. And that's really where it's at. What did Paul say? Christ and Christ crucified.
Yes.
And as we get to know Christ more, as we share Christ with other people, our whole world has changed. When I was a Bible worker, I was sharing the millennium with a Mennonite couple, and it was such a blessing. I was sharing with them, and as I was sharing with this couple about the millennium, I saw the grace of Christ. I saw the love of Christ. I saw that God was showing us so many beautiful things, and it brought tears to my eyes. And I was crying, like literally crying in front of this couple, trying to give this Bible study. But I truly believe that as I was giving that Bible study on the millennium is when I was truly converted. I'm a 7th generation Adventist. I've grown up in the church. I'm a PK, I'm an MK, I'm an Adventist through and through. But I wasn't converted until that instance. It was at that moment that I saw, and this is what we need as a church, is just to share. How can Christ change your life? Because otherwise what we're doing is we're pulling down the church, we're pulling down the pastors, we're pulling down other people. Does that get us anywhere? It doesn't. What we need to be doing is focusing on Christ. And then as we share his love with the people around us, our family, our friends, our lives are changed. And their lives are changed as well.
Fantastic. Okay, you're not going to ask, but I'll ask. I'll ask the question and you'll have to answer me. Someone who wants to support you financially, how do they do that?
Le Chemin is on the OCI website. If they go to the OCI website, there's a donation place, and just look for Le Chemin.
I don't even know how to spell that. So
outpostcentersinternational.org.
Yeah, outpostcentersinternational.org. Okay, so that's on the screen right now. And
Le Chemin, L-E, so Le, and then Chemin, C-H-E-M-I-N-E.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, M-I-N.
And it means the way or the path.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so outpostcentersinternational.org.
Mm-hmm.
And then go look for Le Chemin.
Le Chemin.
And it'll become pretty straightforward there. Listen, man, for somebody who doesn't ask for money, you've made it difficult for people who actually, well, they've got to jump through a couple of hoops here. But we'll find the people who really want to give, they will. And we wish you all the very best. Just fantastic. Thanks so much for taking your time. I really appreciate it. We wish you all the very best. We're grateful for what you're doing, not only in your ministry, but in facilitating ministry and helping others in West Africa do a great work for God. It's just fantastic. Oh, before you go, tell us what you're doing here in the United States right now on this brief trip. You're here to be honored. So tell me about that.
Yeah, out of the blue, we Southern Adventist University. We graduated in 2004, and they're honoring us this year with the service award. So
fantastic.
Yeah, I was.
Based on your time spent in missions and
I was
mission
completely shocked when, when they told. I still don't understand how we got it, but we've got it, and so we came to.
Well, I think some of us do understand, Boaz. Not everybody decides to move their life from one continent to another for the purpose of serving God and reaching our fellow human being with the gospel. Grateful for what you're doing. God bless you. Congratulations on the award. I don't know if congratulations is the right word, but congratulations on the award. That's recognition and valid recognition. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. What a great time it has been. He is missionary Boaz Papendick. I'm John Bradshaw. And this has been our conversation.